aware of that as well. So those are the two items that I'm asking for your approval on. Any additional background, I'm happy to provide any additional comments.
Let me, before we get into it, Mr. Navi, could you share with the board and the public our conversation earlier today?
Yeah, so I was asked last week and then had a conversation again with Mr. Evans today about whether or not this presented a conflict of interest for himself or any other board members who are tenants or doing work for Cal City or have any other financial interests. And so I wrote a memo and sent it out to the board, and in that memo, I explained that, so as far as I understand, Mr. Evans is a tenant at the California City Municipal Airport, and then also he has a contract with the city to provide some minimal financial consulting services. And so he has those two interests. I'm going to give my reasons why I believe that under Government Code Section 1090 and the Political Reform Act, why these are not conflicts. It will be quick, but bear with me for just a minute. So first of all, under Government Code Section 1090, a grant constitutes a contract. So we have to do the 1090 analysis. And in this case, I believe Government Code Section 1091.584 gives Mr. Evans a non-interest in this grant, and the reason why is Mr. Evans is a tenant of the airport, but this grant is specifically for the terminal, and he is not a tenant of the terminal. So the grant does not directly affect the land he leases. So under 1091.584, that would be a non-interest. So then the second question is, in his consulting work with the city, he has a contract from those services. Does that create a conflict of interest? And I believe that under Government Code Section 1091.589, that again, his contract is a non-interest. And the reason for this is he has a contract with the government agency, but this funding, this grant does not go to the, first of all, he doesn't have an interest in the contract between two government agencies, but in this case it's a non-interest as opposed to a remote interest, because the contract is for the airport and his consulting is not for the airport. So the funds are not going to the department he is doing the work for. So I think under 1090, both as a tenant and as an independent contractor consultant to California City, he has non-interest and can participate in this process. That takes us then to the Political Reform Act. Because he has a real property interest, he has a lease at Cal City Municipal Airport, and he has a source of income from the city that exceeds $500. We need to determine whether or not, under the Political Reform Act, there is a conflict that would require him to disqualify himself from participating in the decision-making process. As far as his real property interest, it does not seem reasonably foreseeable that this grant will have financial effect on his interest. The grant does not directly involve the property that he leases. Again, it involves the terminal. He has a hangar lease. And there isn't any evidence or indication the improvement of the roof of the terminal will have any financial effect on the value of the hangar that he leases. Moreover, the property leaves more than 500 feet from the terminal, so it's not a fair that will be the material effect, even if he had the financial interest, that where there could be a reasonably foreseeable effect. Finally, my last comment, and I will shut up and be done, is the question of whether or not the public generally exception applies. In that case, the director may participate in the decision if the decision is indistinguishable from a significant segment of the public, and a significant segment of the public is defined as at least 25% of all businesses or nonprofit entities, all real property, or all individuals in the jurisdiction. And so far as I can tell, whatever within the terminal building does not affect Director Evans or any other director unless you're a tenant of the terminal in any way that it affects anyone else at the airport or in the city. So even if there was a financial interest that had a material impact, granted the public general exception applies. For all those reasons, and with disclosure of those interests that Director Evans has, I think that it is legally permissible to participate in this decision. And if there are any other directors who have any interest in Cal City generally, for the airport specifically, I would be happy to discuss that as well.
Are there any questions for Mr. Nave from either the board or the public? Okay, if there are not, is there any public comment on this item? Are there any questions from the members of the board or the staff on this?
Well, I guess my question is, does that mean you are recusing yourself from the vote, or are you saying you do not have a conflict? Okay.
I'm participating in the vote. I've discussed this and the advice of the district council. We appear to be good for me to participate.
Great.
Okay. Did a member of the board have questions for staff? I heard a couple of people type up.
Director Balentine, I guess my problem with this is, I think that's what's and
We can't hear you.
I said, in the past, when I sat on the board, I believe that the intent of supporting California was aviation purposes, and I think this gets into a gray area as far as maintaining a roof on a building that's also used for other purposes. I personally would have liked to have seen it more directed towards maintenance of runways, taxiways, lights, signs, this type of thing, but I don't believe we were clear in our intent, and I just wanted to make that comment. I'm not real happy with what they're spending it on.
Thank you, Jim. I mean, the comment's valid. Does anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, Director Allred. Let's hear up. My question is, do we, then come next year, do we add $20,000 to their, if they come with a $50,000 request for next year, do we tack on another 20 for what they didn't get this year?
I'll answer that. These are subject to approval every budget year. So I think that we can discuss that in our budget workshop. I will also say that our budget, some of our tax collections are going to be much different given the current coronavirus environment that we're in. So, and I will say publicly so that the City of California City can hear this, is that a grant for 2020 and 21 may not be forthcoming, and they should not count on that.
Okay.
So I hope that answers the question, Terry.
It does.
Okay.
Director Deaver, I just had one comment. I kind of agree with what Jimmy was saying, but I think what we ought to do is maybe in a budget meeting clarify the intent of what this money is supposed to be used for. And I agree with him that it probably should be more aimed at aviation, but it's kind of a gray area on this particular issue.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. I agree with both Mr. Balentine and Mr. Deaver. I would like to see it more aviation related as well. However, I do agree we didn't specify that. But I will say that I believe from conversations I've heard that they intend to be doing some restriping of the runway and stuff like that. That is going to get rather expensive. And this project, if we help them with this project, it will allow them to spend money on that project. So it's either this one or that one. So it will ultimately come out the same, I think. That's just my comment. Is there any other comments or questions by members of the board and staff? Okay. If not, Chair will entertain a motion there.
I think. Well, let me just double check. I think Director Parker was trying to say something. I did ask him to mute his line because there seems to be a lot of feedback coming from his line.
Okay.
So, Director Parker, if you're trying to chime in, you may still be muted.
Am I unmuted now?
There you go. Yeah, that's great.
You're unmuted.
I'm unmuted. I was just in agreement with Bill and Jimmy. I don't think this is a good fit for our grant, and giving City California City's spending propensity for things, and I don't think they're spending their money wisely. I'm against this, and I worry about the COVID-19 for our airport budget coming up, and having this money to cover costs within our district.
All right, are there any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Parker. Are there any other comments by the board? If there be none, then the chair will entertain a motion. The motion will be what, Karina? Give us both motions.
So the motion is,
Let me just say that the first motion is to approve the resolution awarding California City Municipal Airport the 2020 grant for its terminal roof repair project in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Okay, so is there a motion for that?
I make that motion. Deaver.
Thank you, Mr. Deaver. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Director Balentine.
Second by Mr. Balentine. Being no further discussion, it'll be a roll call vote. Mr. Allred. Aye. Mr. Balentine.
Yes.
Mr. Deaver.
Aye.
Mr. Parker.
No.
The chair votes yes. 4-1 in favor of the motion. It passes. What is the next motion that you need, Karina?
it's for the resolution. Scott, do you want to give a summary on the resolution?
Yeah, so the next motion is to authorize Karina to process and approve payment of the invoices submitted by the municipal airport.
Is there a motion for that proposal?
I'll make it, but I just want to be clear because it looks like it's going to be about $80,000. If it doesn't meet the $100,000, I would like to be clear that there is no carryover.
As a legal matter, there is no carryover. Just in general, under the initial 2010 resolution, which is why we are having to do this resolution, because it's deviating from the 2010 authorization. So if there was a request for carryover by the city, that would have to be approved by this board of directors again next year. It is not under the 2010 resolution something that is guaranteed or their right. Thank you, Scott.
Does that satisfy you, Jim?
Yes, it does. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Then the chair will entertain a motion. Go ahead, Bill.
Director Allred is seconding. Yeah, I was going to second it. I thought somebody already made it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Deaver, we'll show that you made the motion and Mr. Allred seconded.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Allred.
Aye.
Mr. Balentine.
Yes.
Mr. Deaver.
Aye.
Mr. Parker.
No.
Mr. Evans votes yes. 4-1 in favor of the motion. It passes. Thank you, everybody. We will now go to item 5A, finance report.
Sorry, there's one more action item, actually, 4B. There's a
I'm sorry,
resolution.
there is. I'm sorry. Item 4B is our next action item. Karina, report, please.
So in our continued efforts to both upgrade our computer equipment and weed out anything that's obsolete, this is Jason's additional effort to take any additional items that have been either deemed obsolete or we're no longer able to use. And this is the list that we've included here in your board packet. So there are a couple of servers that we've upgraded, and there's really no use for any of this equipment anymore. So we're asking for a board to approve this list of surplus equipment.
Hey, let me, I'm sorry for interrupting, but let me jump in here. There actually is a resolution. This is done by resolution every time, and I know that Lynn prepared a resolution. It's not in my board packet. I don't know if it was handed out to the board members individually, but the list here, Exhibit A, is actually an exhibit, an attachment to a resolution. And we have a standard resolution that we use, and that resolution authorizes the general manager to dispose of the surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the district. And so, assuming that none of you have the resolution, I'm going to ask you to approve this by resolution anyway, and we'll get it to you for your signature, but it's the same standard resolution we use every time.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So, is there any public comment on this item? Is there a motion by a member of the board?
So moved, Director Balentine. That's item B, declaring certain property surplus.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Balentine, my motion, is there a second? Director Allred, second. Director Allred, second. There's no further discussion. Mr. Allred.
Aye.
Mr. Balentine.
Yes.
Mr. Deaver.
Aye.
Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Evans votes yes. It's 5-0 in favor. The motion passes. Thank you. Now we go to 5A, finance report staff.
These are the finance reports for month ending March 31st, 2020. Bank balance is down $1.1 million, and that is due to we paid an invoice for Perimeter Road to Meet and Hunt for Taxiway Charlie, and then also we had opened up our OPEB trust and made that deposit. Our fuel sales for year to tweet is 817,000 gallons. Prior to COVID, looked like we were on track for the 1 million gallons, but we'll see once we get the April figures into there. On the over 90 days, Bob Green and Shinnick, and we're currently working with legal still. Randall Kelly is also on the report, and we are working with that particular tenant right now. Jim has 597 members as of the end of March.
You know, they sent me a thing to send out to the chamber members, inviting members and everything. Are they actively operating under these conditions?
So I don't have the on-site open right now, but they are doing some virtual workout classes that you can log on to the computer or from your TV and do them at home.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody else on the board have a question regarding the finance report? If there's none, we will move to item 5B, CEO report.
So we're continuing to work through the challenges in this COVID-19 environment. I'd say about half of the airport workforce is back on site, and the employers are slowly starting to ramp back up. So we're prepared to fully ramp back up as soon as we're needed. So I'm in touch with the more active companies pretty much daily, so that we're prepared, to take on all of the operational requirements as soon as they're back up and running. Other than that, we've had no real changes to the staff scheduling. We're still staggering schedules somewhat to keep people mostly separated, and luckily we haven't had, that we know of, any cases on our team. But Kern County's numbers have been increasing, pretty much consistently with what's going on in the region.
The county has, there was a thing in the California, they said there's 0 cases in Mojave. They're finally listing them by community or by zip code.
Good. Okay, that's good to know. The county has set up testing sites throughout the county, and one of them, I believe, which is starting today, I need to just check and make sure it's open, is at the Vets Hall next to the high school on O Street. So if anybody in the community did want to get tested, that there is a local option. You do need to make an appointment ahead of time. So unfortunately, I didn't find this out too far in advance, and so I did not include it in the report. But we'll start to get the word out as soon as I confirm that they're open. I believe today was the first day they started the testing there. Any questions on or comments on the schedule, operations-wise, anything else? If not, just a quick word on some other updates. So I've been asked to serve as the vice chair for a group called COMSTAC. COMSTAC is an advisory group to FAA AST. This is the commercial space division of FAA, so that is just now getting up and running. We have our first official public meeting on May 19th. So it'll be an interesting couple of years. So essentially the commitment I've made is to serve for 2 years as vice chair. And then tentatively after that 2-year period, I'll serve as chair. So this particular group is a pretty important group for the commercial space industry, because it's the one that sort of sets the stage for providing guidance from industry to the FAA on things that we need to see in terms of regulatory reform, safety requirements, where FAA should be investing in terms of research and development and these types of topics. So as soon as we have more information to share with the public, I'm happy to share that as well. Airport improvements. We completed our bid opening for Taxiway Charlie. We are actually going through all the bids with sort of a fine-tooth comb right now, so I'm not prepared to report anything officially yet. But the next step in the process is to confirm that the bids were mathematically correct, that there was nothing substantial missing, and then we'll complete an application to FAA. My hope is that we, by the June 2nd board meeting, will have some confirmation back from FAA that I can present to the board for adoption of this grant. And in that, we'll hopefully have more idea of the actual timeline of when we can actually start construction. One thing I'm going to ask Scott to chime in on is on the other item under airport improvements is the terminations for some of our tie-down agreements have expired on their unlawful detainers. So we wanted to begin the process of having them removed. Scott, are you able to kind of fill in the what's next on this item?
Yeah, let me go ahead. And so your tie-down agreements are not leases. You give licenses that allow people to be on a certain portion of your property under certain conditions, and you don't give them exclusive possession of those premises. So it's a license, not a lease, which means the unlawful detainer proceedings don't apply. So we don't have to do the notice to cure or quit or pay or quit. We don't file a complaint to evict in court. We just send the notice of termination. So we sent the notices of termination, and the Graphite and Green kept their aircraft at the tie-down site. So then we sent them a notice of abandonment of property. And the notice of abandonment of property is a means by which we give them a certain amount of time to come and claim their property. And if they don't, then if it's worth more than $700, we do a public auction. And so the question that Clarita and I were discussing earlier was whether or not hiring an auctioneer to come in and do the auction was within her authority as CEO. And it was my opinion that it was, and that she could hire that auctioneer, have the aircraft sold, and then the proceeds from that would be distributed in accordance with the statute, which says it first goes to the cost of the auction, then it goes to the cost of storing, the airport's cost for storing the property, and then anything that's left goes to the owners. Or if they're, the owners cannot be located, or they're deceased, or something else, then it's escheated to the state. Unless the board has an objection to Clarita retaining an auctioneer to come in and auction off these aircraft, that's how we intend to proceed. So I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Does the board have any questions?
No, I don't. I would like to see them cleaned up, and I know it's been an issue for years, so I'm excited that we move forward on it.
Amen.
All right, sounds good, Clarita. What else do we have?
Fantastic. So one more question for the board. We are hoping to schedule a special meeting. We're a little bit behind on a couple of items since this coronavirus has delayed a lot for our in-person meetings anyway. So we are hoping to schedule a special meeting for the budget workshop, looking at the third week of May. Would you please make a note to send me an email on what dates will work for you or will not work for you, maybe more importantly, or if you have concerns about having an in-person meeting, just send me a separate note on that. I'd really appreciate it. So we're looking at the week of May 18th. What I don't want to do is push it to the next board meeting, which is June 2nd, just in case there are, concerns with the budget. That would not. Well, I guess unless we scheduled a special meeting in June, we wouldn't get the budget passed before the fiscal year starts. So the week of May 18th, please send me your availability. And I believe that was all I had on the report.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for Clarita.
Sure.
Clarita, back where you're vice chair for COMSTAC, I'm just curious, does the district incur any costs for you to be part of that?
No, other than, the travel costs, but, the frequency of my trips to DC, I don't expect this to be much different. There are 2 public meetings per year. The first one is going to be a virtual meeting. So as of now, for this fiscal year, there wouldn't be any travel costs even.
All right, but possibly after that, you said there's 2 per year. It would be air travel and hotel, I guess.
Yes, potentially. So I think the next meeting they're looking at is September. But, considering how often I travel to D.C. and set up other meetings, generally with other congressional staff, I don't see it as a significant burden overall. Travel-wise, it's $500 usually for airfare and then a couple of nights hotel stay.
It's a great benefit for the district, too.
No, I understand that. And your intent is to combine it with other meetings, too. I just wanted to understand.
Yep.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Jen. Are there any other questions at all? If there are none, we have no board committees. Are there any director comments? There's no director comments. Is there any public comment on an item, on items not on the agenda? All right. Being none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Me too.